It's been so long since I recorded a video, so it's so weird. I don't even remember where exactly to look, but I've just been thinking about picking up my camera, recording, and just talking about something that I've been going through. I've been thinking about this for a while. I've been thinking about recording and really working on changing the way that I've been feeling in my relationships and my friendships. And I feel more encouraged to do so because I've seen more people talk about this, so I know that I'm not alone. Just this feeling of like severe loneliness, and it has definitely helped me to take this a little bit more seriously and figure out, okay, how am I going to change this for myself? And I want to create some sort of series on how I'm going to make some changes around this. And so this is going to be, I guess, the first of the series. In this video, I just want to talk about where I'm at and how it got to be this way for me, how I got to be so lonely. And I want to continue in future videos just talking about ways that I'm going to change that and my plan around how I'm going to do that. I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm not trying to convince anyone to like follow me and do what I'm going to do to make some changes around the way that I've been feeling. It's just kind of almost just like a video diary type of thing for myself to like hold myself accountable in the changes that I'm going to make, and just to kind of track my progress, and also just to understand myself a little bit more and where I am. And it is really difficult to say that I have been feeling really lonely, and this isn't anything new for me. I've been feeling lonely for as long as I can remember. I would probably say the earliest with me feeling this way would probably be middle school. It definitely hit more severely around high school, and then I just think slowly I've just felt lonelier and lonelier and lonelier, and now I'm in my early 30s and I just feel like I'm probably more lonelier than I've ever been in my entire life, which is crazy because I'm sure from the outside looking in on my life, it just shouldn't feel that way. I'm married, and I think people have this perception that if you are married or if you're in a relationship, then how can you be lonely, right? But I think that you certainly can. First and foremost, you certainly can. And I think that a lot of people have this perception that like if you have a significant other in your life, then that person should fulfill all of your needs. And that is something that I've certainly have had in my mind, like that perception, especially as I was going through my whole dating phase and finding someone to marry, that my sole focus and sole purpose should be finding that person. And once I find that person, once I get married, all my problems will be solved and I'll live happily ever after. And I know I'm not alone in that. I know that a lot of women think that way. I know that a lot of my friends think that way. And I also think, unfortunately, a lot of the people in my life still think that way, which contributes to me feeling even more alone. Because I think not only have I done this, but my friends and the people that I know prioritize their significant others. And I think that certainly contributes to how I've been feeling and how I felt over the years. Again, I feel like this started in middle school, and I think that that's certainly the age where a lot of people start to have crushes on people, especially in my friendships. I think that was the time period where there was like a huge switch on valuing friendships and spending time with friends to, oh my gosh, I have a crush on so and so, and like that's all I want to talk about. I only want to talk about this person. I only want to focus on this person. How can I get this person's attention? Oh my gosh, are you in a relationship? Do you have a boyfriend? It was just crazy. And I remember feeling back then in middle school like, yeah, I have crushes on guys, but I want to just hang out with my friends. So I just have this huge pressure. This is my experience, by the way, and this is not me blaming the people in my life in any way whatsoever. I think that this is a common thing across the board, and I certainly contributed to this. But I remember feeling in middle school having this pressure of, I need to also focus on boys because this is what everyone else is doing. And so you're kind of just like put into this mindset that this is what you're supposed to be doing, this is what you're supposed to be talking about. And I think that that has certainly carried with me into high school, where I felt extremely alone. I would probably have identified and called myself a loner. There were a couple years in my, I guess, high school career where the only person that I would talk to is one girl who was basically like my only friend. I had other friends, or I guess like acquaintances, but like the only person that I would really talk to during those few years when I went to school would be my one friend that I had. And if my one friend wasn't there, yikes, you know, like that would be a scary situation. Like, I hated those days, basically. And so I also know that there was still like a lot of focus on men and relationships, and I feel like I lost or witnessed or went through a lot of changes in my friendships where people entered into relationships with like getting into like having boyfriends, and they just disappear because they're so focused on their boyfriend. And that certainly contributed to my loneliness as well. Also, I do want to take a pause and acknowledge the fact that I recognize that I have a certain kind of experience where not a lot of people, I mean, some people can understand this with being a twin. I feel like I really never had to put in the effort to really make a friend. Like, I feel like I really just don't even have those skills to make a friend, just because I would always be friends, or I would always be in friend groups with my twins' friends. And so it was very like easy and natural for me to like get to know new people or enter into relationships with, or friendships with friends that were friends because my twin knew them. And therefore I really never made a friend on my own. I think I've only made one friend. I can think of like one friend I only made on all of my own account. I've certainly made friends, more friends like on my own, but I think I just didn't value them, going back to what I was saying about the focus just being on boys. So those friendships just kind of deteriorated, or they weren't healthy, to be honest with you, but that's a whole nother thing. I think also growing up, it's so much easier to make friends and to feel less alone because you're in school all the time, you're around people. I was participating in sports, so I was very busy, and therefore I had acquaintances and I was talking to other people while I was in school. Whereas now that I'm older, I literally work within my home. I don't see anyone. There's no like thing that I go to and attend on a regular basis where I'm seeing the same people in and out all the time for me to develop friendships as easy as I did when I was younger. So I think that that certainly contributes to my loneliness that I feel. Even just thinking back to my experience in college, because I really didn't have the skills to build friendships, I really didn't still value friendships because I was so focused on boys, but I also found myself in contact or just trying to be around people who weren't healthy for me. I mean, looking back, like, I can say that they weren't my friends. They were very terrible, unhealthy for me, and I'll probably get to that in a different video. I don't really want to spend too much time talking about my experiences in college, but I think a lot of people might be able to relate that, like, you make a lot of mistakes in college. You find yourself into, you know, relationships or spaces around people that you shouldn't be, and you need to, sometimes people need to do that in order to learn who is for them and who's not for them. And I think that that was certainly my experience. It's not like I've never made any like positive friendship from college. It's not like there was no like positive people in the school or in the university that I attended. There certainly was, but I really want to switch back to the focus on just like the feeling of deep, severe loneliness. And it's really hard for me to admit that. I think it's really hard for me to be vulnerable, and I think that that also plays a part in why I feel so lonely. I feel very misunderstood. I don't really connect with people on a deeper level, and I have my theories on why that might be. The first one is I just, again, don't have those skills that I think that I need in order to have healthy friendships. I'm not alone on this either, because I also feel like people don't have the skills to know how to be a friend either. I just think it's just like the time period that we're in. I don't know what's going on with the world and why this is like this, but this is just how it is. And we need to do better, right? We all need to do better. We need to work to value and prioritize friendships. And so I think that that certainly contributes to my loneliness as well, that I put a lot of focus on getting a husband and getting married, and I've neglected my friends. Now, I want to say that this hasn't been like a recent thing. I think over the past couple of years, I've been getting better at this, but it's hard when I feel like I'm on an island here. I feel like I'm the only one, and I want to emphasize, I feel like I'm the only one who does this, right? I don't know if this is necessarily true, right? I'm sure perhaps some of the people in my life might feel the same way that I do. I really don't know. I really haven't talked to them about it. Which is, you know, going back to my difficulties with being vulnerable, we just don't talk. I think that oftentimes I spend a lot of times with my friends and their significant others, which leaves little room for us to be vulnerable and for us to actually talk to one another. I feel like I never really get a lot of one-on-one time with women, and I think that that's really important, to be able to have one-on-one private time away from men, just talking to girlfriends, and I don't have that at all. I feel like I go throughout my week, no one reaches out to me. The only person that I talk to, or only people that I talk to really, are my husband, which I'm very grateful for him, because if I literally did not have him, I would be super, super alone. But the only people that I talk to is my husband and my mom. And that's it. No one reaches out to me. And that makes me feel like I don't have any friends. I feel like the people that I have in my life are people that if I didn't reach out to them, if I didn't contact them to spend time with them, I literally would be all by myself. Like I just wouldn't have anyone in my life. So I feel like if I'm not making as much effort to say, hey, do you want to spend time with me? No one would reach out to me. And that's very hurtful. That makes me feel very sad, obviously. And I wonder why. I wonder why people don't do this, or why my life is, why I'm so dissatisfied with my friendships. Like, what went wrong? What can I do better? What can I change? And I think where I'm at right now is I want to put a focus on that. I want to put a focus on the things that I can do to take control over the way that I feel, because this isn't healthy. I think it's a very natural thing to feel lonely, and I know that I'm not alone in feeling this way, but I also think it's a really unhealthy thing for people to feel lonely. I think there's been studies out there that compared like loneliness to like smoking so many cigarettes or being inactive or something like that, and how unhealthy it is for humans to be lonely. And I want to change that for myself. I don't want that for myself. And I think one of the things that I'm going to do around this is to really study friendships, really study relationships, and really work to apply some of the things that I'm learning. So I'm starting with this first book called Platonic: How the Science of Attachment Can Help You Make and Keep Friends. And it's by Marissa G. Franco. I've already started reading it so far, and so far it's been like really eye-opening. One of the things that she really talks about is vulnerability, which also helped to encourage me to create this video, because I think that to work on being more vulnerable is extremely important, and I need more practice around that. I'm not really ready to have these vulnerable, deep discussions in my current friendships. I think I need to take baby steps around that, but by just talking and admitting the fact that I am lonely and taking this like really seriously and recording myself and like just putting it out there forever to see. Again, I don't know who's watching this at all or if anyone's watching it. It makes me uncomfortable, but it's important and I need to do this. She also mentioned a couple of other things that I wrote down that I found to be really interesting about friendships. One of the things that like I will also talk about a little bit more in future videos related to race, and how difficult it is to be vulnerable in like cross racial relationships in general. I mean, I've talked about race before, I guess, on my channel in dating, but I also think it's important to talk about that in friendships, because I think that this is a major reason why I feel so lonely in my friendships. One of the things that really jumped out to me from what I read so far in this book is that being authentic is a privilege. I feel like that hit home with me, because I relate to that so much. I feel like I'm judged so harshly in my friendships, or in any type of friendship that I tried to pursue, when I am more authentic, when I'm trying to show up more at my authentic self. A lot of the feedback, I think actually the most common feedback that I received is, Heather, you are so intimidating. And I'm thinking, what? I am like the most sensitive person, like caring, like I cry a lot. I'm very thoughtful. I'm always concerned about other people. And I just feel like in my friendships with white people, they do not see that. They view me as being intimidating or scary, or I have this certain agenda that I am just like, I'm lost with what you see here. I'm so confused. And that has caused me to really retreat and be quiet. I even think back to when I was like in preschool, where I can remember being my most authentic self. before I started to learn, like, you need to dial that back in, Heather. I used to be, I was extroverted. I was very bubbly. I was talking to whoever, and that's who I really am. And I feel like I can only do that when I'm around other Black people. When I meet a new friend or a new person who happens to be Black, or when I'm around like my family who's Black, I've never gotten that feedback. I feel like I'm so embraced and I'm allowed to be myself, whereas in my friendships with people who are not Black, I feel like I have to be this person so I'm not intimidating, even though I'm still somehow intimidating people. Or if I do let a little bit out myself, they get scared. And it's such a privilege to be authentic. It's such a privilege to be who you are. And I feel like that has certainly contributed to me, going back to what I said earlier about me just feeling so misunderstood. Like, I feel like people don't even know me. I'm friends with people, but they don't even know who I am. And honestly, if I feel like if I do open up and show more who I am, they'd be running away. They'd be scared. I would scare them away. And I find that to be so, I don't even know what the best word of it is, but it just makes me feel a little bit hopeless, maybe. Like, can I have friends? I don't know. I really don't know. So, you know, one of the things that she says in the book is that you need to vet friends who believe in your worth and dignity of the disadvantaged, you know, I don't know if I like that word, but that of the disadvantaged group you identify with. And I think that that is something that I'm going to start to prioritize. I'm going to start to prioritize people who are more like me. I'm also going to start to lean away from friends who have said something like this to me, and also friends who are in relationships with people who I know do not believe in the worth and dignity of Black people. You know, and that's another question, right? I can talk more and more about this, and I think this is something that I want to prioritize because I know that this certainly affects me. Just about, you know, race and being friends with people who are outside of your race. She also shares a couple other tips around this that I will begin to implement, but I think what I want to do is to read a book every month on friends and relationships, and to really hone in on maybe one or two types of advice that is given, that is proven to be really effective, and just go really hard on those couple of things. So with this book, I've learned a lot. I'm learning a lot so far as I read it. I'm really grateful for the book. I'm really grateful for it to provide like language to how I've been feeling, especially around race and how challenging that can be to be in relationships with people or friendships with people outside of your race. But I think the two things that I really want to hone in on in my next video and really work to kind of record some of the changes that I'm going to make around this and to be serious around this is going and finding a community where I can show up and attend on a regular basis, and not only attend on a regular basis but also just like put myself into that community. So I will talk about that in my next video on how I'm going to do that. And the second thing that I'm really going to focus on is having an unapologetic initiative. That was talked about in the book as well, and I'll talk more about that in my next video about how I'm going to have unapologetic initiative, because I do think that a lot of times when people feel lonely, and this is how I've been feeling, I just want to say, okay, well, I'm gonna stop reaching out to people. If they don't reach out to me, I'm gonna stop reaching out to them. And I think I'm going to, in a way, kind of do that, but also continue to have unapologetic initiative, and I'll explain that on how I'm going to do that in my next video. But this is my first video on this, and this is so weird. I can't believe I said that. I hope I made sense. I'm gonna watch this all back, and I hope that this flowed. I really didn't have any sort of script or any idea of what I was going to say. I probably missed a lot of things, but I think I can't share everything all at once. So I will upload this, and my next video will probably come out sometime in January. Thanks if anyone is watching, I guess. But until next month.